It's time for Mr. Fundamental!
Presented by no one.
The Phoenix Suns made some real progress last year, and earned a lot of respect during that 8-0 run in the bubble. With some reasonable development from the young players, keeping that same roster might already be enough to build on their success. But the Suns went and made a big splash by getting CP3, as well as other pieces. Even with CP3 facing father time, he still brings a lot to elevate this young Suns team with playoff aspirations, so let's get into it. First off, I don't want to undermine what Rubio did in his lone season with the Suns. He played a key role for them, and allowed Monty Williams to have a coach on the floor. Williams always preached a 0.5 system, where players should decide to shoot, pass, or dribble once they catch the ball. While this sounds easy enough, the Suns lacked a playmaker or creator to do something similar in previous years. Even simple passes on these possessions were off target, so openings are basically closed by the time the players gathers the ball. Rubio typically gets the offense running and directs traffic to play out Williams' schemes. In transition, he looks away and tells Kaminsky to cut through, leading to the basket. He also has that overlooked ability of delivering the ball at the right time and on the dime. He fakes the pass to Booker and waits Lopez to sink deeper, then fires a pass to Baines, flaring out for the triple. Before the Suns even started running their actions, Rubio could find Booker behind the defense, and they scored before they could react. Of course, Rubio had his flaws, but still provided an underrated foundation for a young Suns team that really needed it. Moving on to CP3, we all know what the point guard could do, and he could fill the role Rubio played last year. To get a better grasp on how he improved his team, let's have a look at the Suns' numbers last season. They were pretty well rounded, with a balanced diet of each play type. The main thing that stands out is their pick and roll frequency and efficiency. This is exactly where CP3 has excelled in his career. The Suns didn't do this a lot, since waiting for a screen sort of defeats the purpose of a 0.5 system, but they also didn't have capable ball handling creators to score and create efficiently. Only Booker and Oubre graded above average, while Payne only played in 8 games, and Sarge rarely initiated pick and rolls. I'm not going to talk too much about CP3's ability in pick and rolls, because I'm sure you're all well aware of his mid-range proficiency, but I am going to talk about Deandre Ayton. CP3's ability to score is going to warrant different defensive coverages compared to Rubio pick and rolls. Teams constantly went under the screen against Rubio, allowing the big to sag back. This usually means Ayton is never in front of the defense, so Robinson could guard 2 players at once, and the weak side doesn't necessarily have to rotate over. They don't have an advantage on this possession, and the Knicks contain the whole action into a miss. Screen and the handoffs are slightly different, but this usually gets defenders over the screen, and Booker warrants that attention. See how Ayton rolls right away, and he's ahead of the defense. This pulls Robinson away, since he's scared of a dump off or an alley-oop, and now he's late on the contest. CP3's scoring threat is going to force defenders to go over the screen, and bigs to show up higher. Now either Adams have a clearer path for the roll, or the weak side will rotate over to tag the roller, giving the offense numbers advantage on the weak side. Now you slot CP3 in these Suns pick and roll. The big steps up higher, and look at the lane Ayton has on the pocket pass. The weak side help is ineffective, and Ayton lays it in. Even if the defense contains well, Ayton could establish pretty good post position on the roll. These quick post entries will let Ayton go to work before the defense could send help. CP3 has turned good big men into all-stars, like David West and DeAndre Jordan. Ayton has a skill set of those 2 players combined. Even if CP3 isn't here for the long haul, next season will do wonders for Ayton's development. The Suns ran some pretty simple stuff last year, mostly just horns, elbow sets, and pin downs. It was a good foundation, and really relies on their 0.5 philosophy to work. Here's Rubio with the ball out on top, and Booker coming off the pin down. He curls in the lane to keep the defense trailing, and nails the mid-range jumper. They had some wrinkles as well. With a similar pin down, the defense was top blocking Booker, so Ayton flares and takes the open jumper. Just simple read and react. This fueled a promising start last season, when they went 7-4 and beating some contenders along the way. They started falling off when injuries hit, but also the wrinkles weren't enough since only one action happens at a time. The elephant in the room is when Rubio isn't initiating the offense, and teams are still willing to help off him despite his career-high 3-point percentage last year. With Booker initiating the pick and roll, Rubio is spotting up on the weak side. Bradley helps on the Booker drive and fully rotates over, without worrying about a kick out, and gets a nice contest. CP3's reputation and ability to make his defender pay will provide more spacing when he's off the ball. When Rubio was initiating the offense, defenses had to pay attention because the ball is the most important thing, but it could still get better. This is a pin down I've shown before. See how there's only one action on one side, while the 2 weak side defenders are chilling. This would allow weak side defenders to rotate, and collapse on the action easily. Now getting additional movements on the weak side will come down to the coach, but CP3 has a knack for freelancing and improvising, so maybe an additional pick and roll to the right, or he could get by his defender when the defense is focused on this action. Again, a pin down out on top. Check out how KP is anticipating this action and got on Ayton's high side. Well, a quick blow by here would get CP3 attacking the open paint, and KP would be late to rotate. We saw less of this last season with the Thunder's pick and roll centric offense, but I won't be surprised to see CP3 finding holes in the defense prior to the action, just like this. Or using their sets as a decoy and get into the lane, leading to some easy offense. The last thing about their half-court offense is CP3's ability as an isolation scorer. He's amazing at drawing switches and mismatches. This will benefit the Suns and let their supporting cast attack easier defenders. Most importantly, the Suns have another option to turn to in late game situations, and Booker will have more open game-winning opportunities than this. As a young team, pushing the pace and getting out in transition is a good thing. The Suns were 8th in transition frequency and top of the league in percentile. With that said, pushing the ball up and trying to force the issue before the defense sets could lead to turnovers, and the Suns were just average in that category. Of course, not all of this are from transition, but being an average half-court offensive team usually has the tendency to throw the ball away to force transition opportunities. CP3's ability to score against a set defense will minimize those mistakes, especially since teams with him were top 10 in turnovers for 13 out of his 15 seasons. CP3 also had his own version of fast breaks that lead to easy baskets. I've talked about this in my Thunder video, but there's also a really good article on this, links in the description. Ayton should be familiar with this, since it happened to him a few times. CP3 will basically stalk the big and hide behind them. Once he gets to the 3-point line, he does a peekaboo and shows himself. He's wide open above the arc and drains the triple. He does the same thing later in the game, and Ayton was aware of it. That didn't matter, because Ayton acts as a screen for CP3. This sucks in the extra help and he finds Schroeder for the 3. While these possessions aren't as appealing as whipping passes across the court, this will help keep their turnovers down. On the other end of the floor, CP3 isn't an anchor on defense, and Father Time might be sapping some of his athleticism. He's still an effective defender with his quick hands and experience accumulated throughout all these years. The biggest impact he's made is actually their roster moves. The Suns focused more on getting enough shooting last year, especially stretch bigs to try and open up the floor. This was pretty important when they brought in Rubio, so they had players like Frank Kaminsky and Dario Saric as their backline of defense. No offense to them, but defense isn't their strong suit. Now with CP3, look at who they brought in as backups. Damian Jones, Jonathan Motley, and Jalen Smith. They're all shot blockers, and some has flashed at shooting potential. A shooting big is no longer a requirement with CP3 leading the offense, which allowed the Suns to shore up their interior defense this offseason. It's not exactly what CP3 does on the defensive end, but it is an indirect impact that could lead to more on-court success. The Suns definitely upgraded this offseason, especially with their addition of CP3. This is not anything against Rubio. In fact, I think if CP3 arrived last year rather than Rubio, the Suns might not have built the foundation they've had last year. This is because of their different style of facilitating the offense, where CP3 is more of a pick and roll guy, where he uses the ball to control 9 other players, while Rubio gets everyone into their spots and run their sets. CP3 does that as well, but not as much in recent years, since the modern NBA calls for guards to be scorers instead of passers. Anyways, I'm excited to see how the Suns will perform this season, but Suns fans should keep in mind that team progression and development aren't always linear in the NBA. Being in a stacked Western Conference, getting in the playoffs will be a tough task, but I do think they're in the mix for a low playoff seed. Let me know what you guys think CP3 could do for the Suns, and how they will perform in the upcoming season. Remember to drop a like down below, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time.